President Biden's plans to increase gun control after various shootings around the country. A shooting involving a former NFL player, find out what happened, and one Oklahoma senator's visit on campus leads to a new mandatory OU class. This is OU Nightly. Hello, thanks for joining us for OU Nightly. I'm Deyton.
And I'm Emma Sears. We begin with breaking news, a mass shooting situation at a Bryan, Texas manufacturing plant. Police say they are currently searching for a shooter who opened fire at Kentmore Cabinets factory. Right now, television station KBTV reports that 6 people were injured in the shooting and several are in critical condition. Schools in the area were on lockdown, but students are being released to their parents around the normal time that school let out. We'll keep an eye on this developing story and bring you any new information later in the newscast.
So far in 2021, there have been more than 100 mass shootings in the United States, and today President Biden announced immediate actions he can take without Congress to curb gun violence.
Biden called gun violence an epidemic and an international embarrassment.
Skylar Tallal is live in D.C. with details. Skylar?
Yeah, thanks, guys. A top legislative priority of Biden's would be to strip gun manufacturers from liability protection, which would then allow for them to be sued. He also mentioned adding background checks and serial numbers to the so-called ghost guns, which are gun kits anyone can buy and assemble themselves. Biden also wants to see a national red flag law and for states to follow and enact their own. President Biden says Congress is not doing enough to help with this epidemic.
They've offered plenty of thoughts and prayers, members of Congress, but they've passed not a single new federal law to reduce gun violence. Enough prayers. Time for some action.
And there are still 2 gun control bills waiting to be voted on by the Senate. President Biden is encouraging for Congress to go ahead and pass these immediately. Reporting live from D.C., Skylar Tallal, OU Nightly.
Investigators believe a former NFL player shot and killed 5 people and severely injured another. Philip Adams was found dead in a nearby home of a self-inflicted gunshot wound after a standoff with the police. The victims killed included a prominent doctor, his wife, and their 2 grandchildren, and a man who was working in their South Carolina home. The 6th person, a technician at the house, is in critical condition at the hospital as of this morning. Investigators are still trying to determine what led to yesterday's shooting.
During the Derek Chauvin trial today, a critical care doctor took the stand to speak on George Floyd's autopsy. Lauren Johnson has that story and other national headlines from the News Center. Lauren?
Thanks, Deyton. The Chauvin trial is on day 9, and today a pulmonary and critical care doctor testified. Dr. Martin Tobin broke down with medical terms and explained how George Floyd was not able to breathe in that position. The handcuff placement and how the officers held him down caused damage to his lungs and body, leading to his death. He estimated there was 91 pounds pushing on Floyd's neck.
Floyd died from a low level of oxygen, and this caused damage to his brain that we see, and it also caused a PEA arrhythmia that caused his heart to stop.
Dr. Tobin said a completely healthy person would have died under the same conditions Floyd was subjected to. And Joel Greenberg is a large part of the ongoing investigation of Florida Representative Matt Gaetz. Now his attorneys say he is likely to strike a plea deal. Greenberg was arrested in 2020 for stalking charges and was accused of obtaining photos of a minor. If a plea is not reached by May 15th, trial can move to July. The Florida governor is suing the CDC, citing the delayed opening of the U.S. cruise ship industry. He says Florida relies on those travelers.
And so today, I'm happy to announce that on behalf of the tens of thousands of Floridians whose livelihood depends on the viability of an open cruise industry, today Florida's fighting back.
Some cruise lines will be continuing their suspension through June. And the U.S. is facing a ketchup packet shortage due to the increasing amount of takeout orders because of COVID. Emma, back to you.
Thanks, Lauren. COVID cases are consistent in Oklahoma today. The state health department reports 500 new cases, bringing the total number of active cases just below 10,000. The CDC says there are a little more than 8,000 confirmed deaths in the state. Anyone over 18 can get the COVID vaccine in Oklahoma, including people who live in other states.
OU College Republicans hosted Oklahoma Senator James Lankford at an open public forum today. Lankford was on the Senate floor speaking on his objection to Arizona's Electoral College votes when the pro-Trump mob stormed the Capitol on January 6th. During the forum, Lankford spoke of his distaste for the insurrection, problems concerning illegal immigration, and critical race theory. The university announced that it'll implement a mandatory diversity and inclusion class for first-year students to take. Lankford is not currently opposed to this class.
That class doesn't bother me as a title, but I don't know what the curriculum is and how it's actually being taught. That's going to matter a lot of what's actually being taught. If it's imposing on people, you're evil, and everyone else is good, that's a problem, because that's not.
The Gateway to Belonging class will begin in fall 2021.
And the weather is absolutely stunning here in Norman today. If I didn't know any better, I would think it was already summer.
Oh, I know, and I'm so here for it. Mikayla is outside and has the first look at the weather. Mikayla?
It's absolutely beautiful out here today. If you haven't had the chance to get outside, I would highly recommend nice sunshine. It's a bit breezy, but not as windy as it was yesterday. But the sunshine is going to go away slightly. Tomorrow we're going to have clouds that are going to work their way into our area and a chance of storms later on tomorrow afternoon into evening. Now the main threat is going to be to the southeast portion of the state where there is an enhanced risk, which is a 3 out of 5. Coming up later on in the show, I'll tell you more about those storms and when they're going to be. But after that low pressure system moves in with those storms, we're going to be back to sunshine for this weekend. And if you love this weather just as much as I do, I have a nice pool forecast for you for this weekend. Back to you guys.
Springtime in Oklahoma doesn't just mean flowers and sunshine.
Allergy season is upon us. Find out how Oklahoma's winter may have affected it.
Plus, if you're thinking about getting the Astrazeneca vaccine, you may want to think twice if you're under 30.
Find out why doctors want you to be cautious when choosing this vaccine.
Welcome back to OU Nightly. The cold weather is behind us, and now it's time to think about allergy season. OU Nightly's Reece explains how Oklahoma's cold February is changing the pollination season.
February was historic for all of Oklahoma and plenty of the southern United States. In a normal year, record cold temperatures and brutal winds would limit pollination and allergies.
If you have real harsh weather, it potentially can knock some plants out. It could knock them down.
But this year we had snow cover, which actually gives plants and trees the advantage for the spring.
And that snow acts as an insulation, and I can make the argument the soil temperatures actually rose. They didn't get any colder for sure when you add 14 inches of snow as insulation.
The snow became a blanket for the ground, trapping not only the heat, but the moisture as well. With warmer temps and spring rain reaching the soil, it becomes a feeding frenzy for grass mold and enhances the pollination process for trees and plants.
Mowing the grass oftentimes is actually the mold that bothers people even more than the pollen from the grass, because the mold is thrown up in the air.
Pollination will thrive as the soil stays so saturated, and the cold February delayed pollinating for plants, meaning you're going to need to prepare for more aggressive allergies.
Ones that start earlier are going to shift it a little bit. So you'll get a little bit more of a bunching is what you're going to get. So early on, you're going to get a little more bunching, so they'll all start pollinating a little bit later is what they're going to do.
While changing your clothes after being outside can minimize the symptoms, that isn't enough, since pollen specifically is sticky.
When it gets in the eyes, when it gets in the nose, that's where you get the nasal symptoms and the eye symptoms of itching.
So be sure to have your nasal sprays and eye drops locked and loaded this spring. Reece, OU Nightly.
Today, the Oklahoma Allergy and Asthma Clinic puts tree pollen count in the high category.
A rare side effect has been linked to one of the COVID-19 vaccines. Haley Weger has more on that story in health.
Thanks, Deyton. European drug regulators confirm a link between the Astrazeneca vaccine and rare blood clots. Experts are recommending people under 30 years old receive an alternative vaccine to be cautious. The European Medicines Agency says that a side effect of the vaccine is a combination of unusual blood clots with low blood platelet counts, but not everybody will experience it.
Our conclusion is that these clotting disorders are very rare side effects of the vaccine.
The agency says the benefits of the vaccine outweigh the risks. And a new report shows that 1 in 3 people diagnosed with COVID-19 develop long-lasting mental or neurological symptoms. 34% of coronavirus survivors were diagnosed with a neurological or psychological condition within 6 months of infection. The most common diagnosis was anxiety in 17% of patients and mood disorders in 14%. These results show that brain diseases or psychiatric disorders are more common after COVID-19 than other respiratory infections. And new CDC data shows COVID-19 was the 3rd leading cause of death last year. The data shows the top 10 leading causes of death in 2020, with heart disease and cancer at 1st and 2nd. The death rate increased by 15.9% from 2019 to 2020, going up to 828.7 per 100,000 people. Last year, COVID-19 replaced suicide as one of the top 10 causes of death, which was number 10 in 2019. Deyton and Emma, back to you guys.
Thanks, Haley. And if you saw some bright lights in the sky last night, I can assure you it wasn't just a shooting star. Stay tuned to find out what it was and how it will affect our internet connectivity in the future.
And Mikayla, what do we have coming up in weather?
Yeah, so it was beautiful today all across the state. We do have a chance for some storms tomorrow. It's going to be mainly in the southeast, but I'll tell you more about when and where coming up. Welcome back to OU Nightly. You can take a current look at our Okc Skyline Cam, and you can see there is not a cloud in the sky. It is, oh, actually there's one right there, but it actually snuck in. It's a beautiful day today. All around the state, we're sitting in the 70s, almost touching 80 here in OKC. So it's been warm, it's been hot, and we've really needed that, and it's been really nice. And it's been the story for most of the state. We can see our currents, 81 in Lawton, 80 in Elk City, so we are touching 80s. It's springtime, but it's starting to feel a little warmer, even kind of towards summer now. Our lows tonight across the state are going to be 50s, 58 in Oklahoma City, so a bit warmer than normal for this time of year. But that's going to change as we have a storm system that's going to be working its way in tomorrow. So we're going to have a low pressure system. Here's our severe weather outlook for that. Here in Norman, we're sitting under a marginal, but to the southeast of us, here we can see that there is an enhanced risk down here, including Idabel. That's a 3 out of 5 risk on the SPC outlook, so that's an enhanced risk. The main threat is going to be for some large damaging hail, strong winds. We can't rule out a tornado or two, but that is not going to be the main threat. Now with these storms, we can see our forecast here. We're going to expand it out. We have that low pressure system that's working its way. With it, there's a cold front. That's what's going to be this weather maker. And as it pushes through, you can see those storms that are going to move across, and it's going to push to the eastern states, and they're really going to get a lot of weather. Now here, if we kind of zoom in to our area, we can get specific about the southeast. We can see these storms are going to line up right around a little after 1 tomorrow is when the rain's really going to start. But then we have that line that starts to the west of Norman around 7 o'clock tomorrow night. So you're going to want to grab an umbrella or something before you head out the door if you have any plans. Now, future rainfall totals are going to be what we need for some areas. We're going to be seeing some rain, but day tomorrow, nice in the morning. We're going to be warming up as the day progresses. That rain is going to move through, though, tomorrow evening. So you're going to want to have an umbrella or something if you have any plans, like I mentioned. Highs tomorrow are going to be nice, a bit warmer than the normal for this time of year, but otherwise just a gorgeous day. We're going to be warm tomorrow, cool sunshine for this weekend, absolutely beautiful, and the rain's going to return Tuesday of next week. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Mikayla. And if you saw something unworldly in the sky last night, you weren't alone. The bright chain of lights that surprised folks across the state turned out to be satellites zooming overhead. Yesterday, SpaceX launched all 60 Starlink satellites from the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. The $10 billion network Starlink project will provide global internet connectivity. The next Starlink launch is set for April 22nd.
And if you're a big softball fan, you may be able to attend even more games this spring than you anticipated.
Myles Smith is here to tell us what's going on in the softball world. Myles?
That's right, ladies. I will let you know how their schedule is changing. And stay tuned because the boys of fall are gearing up for the long-awaited spring game. Sports is next. Hello, I'm Myles Smith. Let's talk some sports. We've got a lot to talk about in today's show, so let's get straight to it. OU's newest arrival is already making himself right at home. New head basketball coach Porter Moser met with football coach Lincoln Riley last night for a big Norman welcome. Just 4 days after officially getting the OU job, Moser also secured his first recruit, Alston Mason, a 3-star guard from Overland Park, Kansas, committed to Oklahoma last night. With spring football slowly approaching, OU football looks to make a statement this upcoming season. Running back coach DeMarco Murray expressed how much depth there is at the running back position.
We have a lot of competition in my room, which that's what I want, and that's what we want as a staff in each position. You add a guy like Eric Gray, who's versatile out of the backfield. He's probably one of the most natural catcher and receiving running backs that we have now. But for me, I always want to have a versatile back. I want to have different types of back that complement each other. Don't want a lot of the same guys.
If you want to see the new look Sooners in action, they host their spring game at the Palace on the Prairie on April 24th at 4 p.m. The undefeated OU softball team isn't letting COVID interrupt their season. The Sooners had to postpone their series at Baylor this week due to COVID-19 concerns within the Baylor program. But the #1 team wasn't about to slow that down. OU picked up games against Mississippi State and Louisiana Tech this Saturday to add on to their season. Today was the first day of the 2021 Masters, and some interesting storylines are already taking shape. Defending champion Dustin Johnson wrapped up day one at 2 over. Justin Rose is the current leader at 6 under par, and Hideki Matsuyama and Brian Harmon are second and tied at 3 under. Former Sooner Abraham Anser finished the day at 1 over. The Oklahoma City Thunder fell to the Charlotte Hornets last night, 113-102. Teo Maledon led the way with 25 points in 36 minutes of play. OKC is currently on a 4-game losing streak and have players out due to injuries and safety protocols. The Thunder only have 7 players available for tonight's matchup and look to get a win at home as they take on the Cleveland Cavaliers. In last night's matchup with the Utah Jazz, Chris Paul was seen drinking a plastic bottle with a paper wrapped around it titled Chris's Secret Stuff, in reference to the original Space Jam where Michael Jordan he used his own secret stuff to defeat the Monstars in the second half. The former Thunder guard dropped 29 points and 9 assists with the Suns' 117-113 overtime victory. And today marks the 47th anniversary of legend Hank Aaron becoming the MLB's home run leader in 1974. The Atlanta Braves slugger surged past Babe Ruth with 715 home runs. But this year's anniversary is bittersweet, as it is the first time Aaron is no longer with us to celebrate this historic day. With so many games going on today, be sure to tune in to Big Friday Sports tomorrow to find out the scores from some of the big games. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Myles. We sure will. And if you're in the mood for some turkey legs, we have some great news for you.
That's right. The Medieval Food Fair is coming to town. Find out when straight ahead on OU Nightly.
I'm Bailey Coyle at the OU Nightly Update Desk. The Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals overturned another state murder conviction. This comes after last year's Supreme Court case ruling that Oklahoma lacks authority for crimes on tribal reservations in which defendants or victims are tribal citizens. Back to you in the studio.
Norman's annual Medieval Fair is making strides to get more people involved amidst the pandemic.
The fair announced they will provide food to go at Reece Park with over 15 food options available. Masks and social distancing are required in line for food and are encouraged to only eat in small groups.
Thank you for watching OU Nightly, brought to you by Gaylord College here at the University of Oklahoma.
Be sure to tune in tomorrow, same time, same place. Good night.